You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. The Options Insider Radio Network is sponsored by Fidelity Investments. Fidelity's Option Trade Builder tool can help you confidently build an options trade in 3 simple steps. Just choose a strategy, select a contract, and then review the benefits and risks of the trade. Learn more about Option Trade Builder at fidelity.com/options. Options trading entails significant risk and is not appropriate for all investors. Certain complex option strategies carry additional risk. Before trading options, contact Fidelity Investments by calling 800-544-5115 to receive a copy of the characteristics and risks of standardized options. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market. From unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the option block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from RCM Asset Management, Andrew the Rock Lobster Joe Vanazzi from OptionPit.com, and Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the option block.
All right, everybody, it is time once again for the option block, everyone's favorite, at least I hope it's your favorite, bi-weekly source for all things options related, a little bit of options wit, a little bit of options wisdom, some analysis, some unusual activity, all that fun stuff wrapped together in a fun little bi-weekly package, typically bi-weekly. Obviously, we were off for the holiday this week. And by the way, if I sound a little bit different, it's because I'm coming at you not from our studio in sunny Chicago, but indeed from scenic and very sunny Orlando. We're in the old traveling studio, so bear with us if there are any hiccups mid-show. All right, and let's see who's joining us on the old program today. We got the Rock Lobster himself, Mr. Andrew G. from OptionPit.com. Mr. G, welcome back to the show, sir.
It's fantastic to be here. It feels like it's been a week almost.
It's funny how that works, isn't it?
It is the week flies by, and right now I don't know if I'm in the polar vortex. I'm in the coldness. There's so much snow that everything looks like a black and white picture.
Yeah, I hear you guys got pretty hammered, right?
So yeah, we got some snow, but yeah, it's okay. It's A-okay.
It's A-okay. I'm listening while I'm doing this. I'm hoping that the live stream is picking up the Rock Lobster as well. Checking in with our producer, see if that's the case. I do believe we're also joined better late than never, fashionably late as he is wont to do, by Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, how go things in your own personal polar vortex, sir?
Not much of a polar vortex. I mean, heck, we're in the mid-20s today. This is like Florida weather to us after what we went through a couple weeks ago here.
That's true. It is pretty tight up there, at least for now. Hopefully it stays that way. Maybe boost a little bit because I'll be back in town tomorrow. So that should be fun. Meanwhile, keeping things fun, let's keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block. Again, if you're listening to this live, we're doing it fast and dirty. on the old live stream. So no music, none of that fun stuff. You'll get all that. And, of course, and they listen to the podcast, you won't notice any difference. It'll just sound all the same to you. And I am hearing that they're not getting you guys on the live stream. So I'm going to see if I could deduce all of that madness. Meanwhile, while I'm doing some deducing over here on my end on the live stream, and why don't we kick it off? Let's go back the other way. Let's go back to the Rock Lobster. So what's been catching your eye here in today's market activity? Indeed, this week, because we didn't have a show on Monday either.
Well, I think a couple things. Yesterday we had sort of that weird low print for VIX. It printed 1402. And by the way, what was my crystal ball prediction?
I believe it was somewhere in that radius.
It was 13.7, and I will give you credit. You did not scum me on my lower bid, by the way. So we'll see how that goes. So I just want to see a tweet if I win the crystal ball, even in absentia. I want the credit. I want a tweet that says the Rock Lobster won the crystal ball finally.
Finally, the old even a blind squirrel finds a nut tweet. You want one of those? Okay, we can get.
The broken clock is right twice a day. Blah 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 blah. But what I'm fine now is VXXB, which is our new vol product. I hate saying the B; it drives me nuts. I'm just going to call it B. I'm not even going to call it VXX anymore. It's just B. Is low on the day. We actually had a little bid for vol this morning, trade, whatever. And then it all just went away. So this is a flip from the market we had before. Not very long ago, actually, where all news was bad news. And now all news is good news, or at least not as bad news. So the vol complex is showing the way as far as how it's treating basically more of the same news, which is not very much. It's not reacting that much to it anymore. So I don't know how long that will last, but for now, we could see VIX in the 13 handle for the first time in 4 or 5 months. Maybe by the close of business today. Certainly that signals lowerness. That signals us getting out of zone 2 into zone 1, which is, on my top secret. I got to rename everything because Longo does not like any of my names. But I will. When I relaunch my VIX Made Easy, I'm going to do some that have really snazzy names for the zones. It feels like a market that wants to creep around until there's details of the trade deal are actually out. That's what it feels like. And I don't see much changing. We're getting a lot of contango building up into the futures again. So usually, I know the futures work kind of the opposite the way everybody thinks. That it's not really predictable where vol is going. It's really trying to value time. So right now, those vol in the future is just worth more money than it is right now, which usually means things are kind of slow. So we'll see. It's been a while since we've had it. Months, I would say 5, 6 months. So you could see a product like VXXB surprisingly really get killed right now. That's how we're kind of the vol newsletter set up. It's sort of, we're going to call it a binary switch almost with how that product can perform. And one of my favorite stocks, Walmart, had good earnings, but then they sold off yesterday. So other than that, it's just looking like the market's just waiting for that news to come out. Doesn't really want to go up, doesn't really want to go down, which usually leads to lower vol.
Yeah, I do believe we have you guys doing my little bit of on-the-fly audio engineering here. I do believe you guys are viable on the live stream now, so people can hear your nuggets and pearls of wisdom live. Again, after the fact, if you listen to this on the podcast, you will notice nothing. You will have heard all of it anyway. But I like to make sure everybody, when we get all these things on the road, everybody can hear and play along however you're listening. And you're right, Mr. Rock Lobster, about that vol annihilation. Our old friend VXX right now, even shy of the 31 handle, 30.99. Imagine how many smiley faces there would have been, Mr. Rock Lobster, down from about 34 earlier this week to 31 now. How many smiley faces there would have been if this had been occurring during, let's say, I don't know, Jan expiration of VXX?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. There would be a lot more. There would be happier people for sure. So, all I can say is VXX went out with a bang. It's last year. But it is now going back to its normal self. And we'll see how the market sort of takes, when the Fed kind of takes their foot off the gas as far as the asset sales and things, you wait till the market picks up a little steam again. Maybe there's a less volatile administration, maybe, or somehow in the next couple of months. If the volatility ticks down, then they kind of start back up again. But as it looks right now, it just, it's those futures make it hard for those vol products to perform, and it makes it very easy for them to go down, and that's what we got. And but I think at this point now, we need a catalyst to get over that 2,800.
Yeah, I think if you want a depressing picture, just go look at a screenshot of OI for VXX immediately prior to Jan expiration, and you'll just see the litany, the boulevard of broken dreams, I believe referred to it on VolViews a few weeks back, because that's exactly what it was. It just took a lot of people's hearts and just broke them in two. So we do feel your pain here on the show. Uncle Mike, I can't speak for, though. He's cold, heartless. His heart has been dead for a long time. But that makes him good. It means he has more time and more emotion to devote to you, and a more critical eye to devote to your money matters. So, Uncle Mike, sir, what is catching your cold, dead eye today in today's markets?
Holy cow, you're making me sound like the Grinch. Man. Anyway, I do think it's important to have a cold, dead eye in terms of certain money matters, but I try not to have my personality be that cold head and cold hard and mean. But nonetheless, in terms of what I'm looking at today, I think the big focus right now is still on the trade deal. If we're going to get one, if we're not going to get one, Fed had their minutes, I believe, yesterday. So they released a little bit, some of them yesterday. So I think that's what's going on in the macro news. The micro news, Nike was actually down a little bit today. And the story on that was that last night in a basketball game, the guy, his Nike shoe broke, and he hyperextended his knee. So that's one reason why Nike might be taking a hit. Who knows? But I'm still kind of a Nike bigot in terms of using the product, but I do not own the stock, full disclosure. So we have that going on. Silver has actually been rallying a little bit over the course of the last couple of weeks. Today it is down. I think it's a little bit of profit taking over the course of the last couple, from what the rally has been over the course of the last couple of weeks. Of course, we have market down slightly today, but I think Andrew's right. We are going to need a little bit of a catalyst to get over this 2,800 mark. And I hate to sound like a broken record, but I think everything is hinging right now on some type of good news on the trade deal. What do I think is going to happen? Honestly, I think they're going to continue to punt. I don't think that I don't think China wants to admit defeat, and I don't think that America wants to admit that we might not get exactly what we want. So I think they're going to continue to punt this out, and I don't see any resolution anytime soon, but I don't see any bad news coming either. But that's kind of the nature of the beast. When do you ever see bad news coming? So that's kind of what's catching my eye today. I think it's going to be interesting over the course of the next couple of weeks to see where we go. 2,800, of course, being a mark that Andrew had mentioned, being kind of a key number in my opinion, and seeing if we can take out some of the highs from last fall.
You scared me for a second when you said Japan. I was like, uh-oh, did a new front open in the trade war while I was busy frolicking in the sunshine? That's what I get for going away. Japan coming at us as well, but I'm glad to hear things are still exactly where we left them, which is,
we're good with Japan.
Poised near, but perhaps not quite at some point of resolution. Speaking of points, let's see what point we're at here in the old options market right now, coming into showtime. What was lighting up the tape? Let's start with some most active. Let's go look at our top 10 out there in terms of the big old equity options. What's lighting it up? Number 10, Bank of America, 82,000 contracts. Number 9, Amazon. A surprisingly light day here for good old Amazon. Only 86,000 contracts on the old tape. Number 8, AMD, 88,000. Number 9, GE, 97,000. GE also falling off. They've been kind of dominating the tape of late up here today. Only 97,000 here. Number, where are we at? 6 here. Netflix, 106,000. Number 5, Tesla, 120,000. Number 4, Lilly. Haven't seen Lilly on there in quite a while. $136 on the tape. Number 3, Facebook, 152,000 contracts there. Number 2, Microsoft, 97,000. Number 1, your old friend Apple, the fruit company, 185,000 contracts on the tape. 62% of those coming on the call side, so that's actually our most heavily call skewed. Actually, I take that back. AMD slightly more, 65% call skewed today. But Apple up there, 62% on the Apple call front. Let's pull up some Apple and see exactly why Apple is, as I'm losing myself in my own phones here. You know, the joys of being my own editor and production man over here are legion. Listeners, all right, I'm still hearing myself, so I guess we'll just keep on rolling. We're also seeing, I think I'm also hearing somebody like the Rock Lobster or somebody is forgetting the old mute button. So whoever is out there, loving to not mute, make sure I have less control over you here than I normally do. So bear that in mind as you're frolicking through your own personal studio. So indices over here, let's turn it up. Coming into Showtime, we had VIX doing about 141,000 contracts, so not quite, Rock'em Sock'em Robots level of volume, but not terrible either. We've also got ADV right now is pretty light, about 452,000 contracts. We got SPY doing almost exactly 1 million contracts coming into Showtime. About 2.7 million is the ADV out there. SPX, 651,000 contracts on the tape coming into Showtime. About ADV a little bit north of 1 million, about 1.2 million contracts out there. Then we got, let's see what we got here. Qs. 722,000 contracts is the ADV, 265 on the tape right now, so about a third up there on the tape. And let's go Russell too. Let's go IWM just for fun. A little 340,000 contracts are on the ADV, I should say there, and $1.87 on the tape today. All right, let's look here really quickly as we're scrolling through some of our other big names. I don't know, Mr. Rock Lobster, did you hear? You heard all this noise about a week ago about SIBO rolling out these 11 options on the... Whoa, someone making noise here on my own. There we go. Someone's dialing me or something over there. I don't know if you guys heard that. We got these 11 select sector indices adding to their S&P rollout over there, the SIBO, Mr. Rock Lobster. Any of this blowing your skirt up, or is this kind of to you?
I mean, more sector indices? I mean, yes, it is. Let's just put it is not blowing my skirt. As much as I like that skirt to be blown, it is currently not doing that.
I had a feeling it wasn't going to excite you too much, but I always give you a chance in case you're feeling so inclined to chat a little bit. Speaking of chatting some fun stuff, let's get into it with a little bit of the old Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block. Again, those of you listening live, you're hearing the raw, dirty feed here coming at you. We're no music, no transitions. We just get right into it here. This is how the show used to sound way back in the day. Now you guys hear a much more polished version. You don't hear all the Rock Lobster's foibles going on behind the scenes there. We try to cut that out for you. Right now, though, you're hearing it all live and good. Speaking of live and good, let's see what we got kicking off our tape. Actually, we're going to kick things off. Mr. Rock Lobster, you probably know about this one because Mr. Meatball has been crowing about this, at least to me today. We're going to go back. Let's start on the Odd Block, looking back a little bit. Looking back to, what do we got here? What was the date? The 7th. February 7th. That's when we first profiled this name here. This is ticker symbol KAR. There we go. Easy for me to get all that in. Why is that not coming in? All right. Well, we're going to talk about CAR regardless. It's our ticker of the day here, at least for the beginning of the Odd Block. Let's pull it up. That's better. This is CAR Auction Services. Ticker symbol, of course, CAR, KAR. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the show. It was the 7th. And if you recall, we talked about a block of about 2,500 March double puts. That's 55 puts. They traded pretty much close to the offer for $3.30. It was all opening. Seemed kind of interesting. It seemed like interesting timing. They had earnings coming up fairly soon, a couple of weeks later. The 19th, actually, is when they had their announcement, so a couple of days ago now. Total volume on that strike on the day was about 3,000 contracts. And then now, coming into showtime, these ones actually look pretty good. But before we get to that, let's go back and look over the last month and see how CAR has fared. Because on the 7th, it was trading 52.21. Kind of hovered at those levels, rallied slightly up to about 54 and change going into earnings. And then earnings, it seemed like those puts, those concerns that person had, fairly well-founded. Because after the earnings, it sold off to about 46.73 on that. I guess apparently bad earnings here on good old CAR. Today, getting some of that back, up about $1.50 or about 3% to 48.15. But still, it seems like that put paper reasonably well-founded. In fact, as you recall, I'm sure he told you about this, Mr. Rock Lobster. Mr. Meatball was so intrigued by these that he decided he wanted to follow them on his own. So he put a one lot on just for fun. So he bought one of these too. In fact, I can see his paper. I think his paper went up a little bit later for $2.35, somewhere around that. That looks like a little cheap. Maybe he probably bought them for close to what this guy did, probably on $3.30. But he said, and he wrote to me this morning saying this was a great trade. He actually doubled his money, Mr. Rock Lobster. So this guy, he wanted to make sure I pointed that out to the listeners, so they knew he did well on a one lot, Mr. Rock Lobster. We don't often pile in behind the UA that we profile here on the Odd Block, but this time Mr. Meatball did, and it actually worked out pretty good. Like I mentioned, the stock has sold off. These puts caught a nice bid. They were trading for over $8 at one point, 8.5. So they pretty much have done nearly 3x since we profiled them. So this guy, his concerns, whatever they may have been, whether he's an underlying holder and he was looking to hedge, in which case maybe he doesn't have the biggest smile on his face, but he's not as sad as he would have been, or if indeed he was probably specking to the downside ahead of earnings. Either way, his options paper, at least, was on the right side of the tape. Weirdly enough, though, Mr. Meatball, if you look right now, these things, they printed about 3,000 times on the 7th, and that was pretty much the entirety of the OI, 3,000 and change on that day. And then they traded more immediately after the earnings on the 20th. So the day after the announcement, they traded 1,000 more, about 1,115 more. And the OI increased, went from about 3,000 to about 4,100. So the guy didn't come in. You think he would have closed some of those after that announcement when the trade went his way, and they were trading $8.50 roughly. Instead, no, someone added about 1,100 more to the total. So as we speak right now, it's about 4,200 contracts open on this strike, Mr. Meatball. So Mr. Rock Lobster. All sorts of weirdness. We have well-intentioned put paper, well-timed put paper. The Meatball making a little quick 2x on a one lot just for some fun to talk about here on the show. And then also these puts going his way, Mr. Rock Lobster, but then not taking them off. What do you make of all this madness here in CAR, sir? Well,
as you know, you buy the 55 strike, the stock prints 46 or lower, and you don't take the money. Maybe he's worried that or he might have bought stock against him, trying to be a little bit savvier on clearly running ahead of whatever the news was supposed to be. So, because as you all know in this world, are there really such a thing as a coincidence when it comes to buying a March double put and the stock drops $8 the next day? Is that, you traded a long time, right? So that customer comes in and like, how did he know that stuff?
Purely accidental. I see no conspiracy.
Purely accidental. It even gets to a point where you even know the brokers who had the scummiest paper. So sometimes I would look at a position and, you're just dying on all this juice in your position. And then it's almost like the angel of mercy comes in and says, I'm going to buy okay, what's the market for 3,000 puts? I'll buy whatever I can at $3, right? Because he knows he's not going to, but you sell like 50, and then all of a sudden your crappy back spread is bailed out. The key is just not giving them all your bullets when they come in to take them. So, of course, those are no longer the good old days anymore. They're the bad new days. So we just watch these guys get filled electronically and then watch the trade blow up. But that's why we have unusual activity.
That is indeed why we exist. That's the only reason we exist now, is to highlight these people's foibles and sometimes their wins, like we have going on here today. So, yeah, interesting stuff. A little bit. We always say the size money, not always the smart money. And again, we don't know all the legs to this trade. It could have indeed done it tied. He probably did it against an equity position, whether he did it tied with the trade or had the equity already. I probably would lean the latter, but you never know. So he probably, again, isn't laughing all the way to the bank because his underlying is selling off. But indeed, on the option side alone, which is our main focus here, remember, it is the option block and the odd block after all. The option side alone, well-timed paper, so much so that the meatball buying himself, I guess, a nice steak dinner off of his one lot that he doubled. Put a few $100 in his pocket. That's worth popping on an odd block every now and then to do so. And also, weirdly enough, that this stuff's still open. Do you think, at the very least, the one leg's working for you? Maybe you take some of it off? No, he added on. He added on another third of the paper. I guess he liked them so much at 3, he had to get more at 8.
Well, things just keep going in the same direction, Mark. When something's going down, it's going to go down more.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it works, right? So, yeah, I'll just look at VXX for all of last year, and or I should say now VXXB, and you could see that chart play out exactly that exact way, right? That's how it worked for everybody in January. All those happy faces in January. But I digress. Let's go on here to our next name. Let's see who we got. Who's the Eye of Sauron spitting back at us today? We've got AGI. Looks like we got some call activity in AGI. This is Alamos Gold Inc. This is going to be our resident cheapie of the day. This one coming into Showtime was trading about $4.80 off, about not quite a dime. So not a huge underlying move here for AGI today. Over the past year, let's see what this thing has been up. This thing is kind of vacillated, but it's been in a pretty decent range with the exception of the last month or so. For most of 2018, it was vacillating around the 5 handle. Got up to 6 ever so briefly, flirted with it. Looks like back in the summertime range, June or so. And then it sold off again down, broke the 5 handle down to flirting with the 4 range around September. And then it kind of got nice and low when everything did back around that nadir for most names, which was right around Christmas Eve. Looks like it hit 290. So over the past year, it actually had about a $3 range. It looks like it did break 6 ever so briefly, 613, and then to the downside, it broke the 3 handle down to 290. So it's had about a $3 range. So it has been vacillating for this, for a relatively cheapy gold name. These days, like I said, right around $4.80. So getting back up to the middle end of that 52-week range or so. So what did we see? What did our Eye of Sauron highlight today? We got call paper to the tune of, wow, that's a different. Okay, here we go. I'm going to say someone had sent me something else, and that could not have been the right strike, and it was not. Instead, it was this. It was the SEP 5s. That makes a heck of a lot more sense. The SEP 5s going up 15,100 times for 71 cents, pretty much a penny right off the bed. These things were 70 cents at 90. He crushed 15,100 of them for 71 cents. His broker got him a penny. So there you go. His broker earned his salt that day. This is opening paper, by the way, out here. So, yeah, a name has kind of been vacillating around this 5 level, even though it has danced higher and lower. Coming in, Mr. Rock Lobster, we're at 480 right now. Someone writing all the way out to SEP on the 5 strike, doing it for 71 cents. So, effectively, they got not quite a buck of upside, but pretty close to it here before they get called away on this stock, which is, if you look at it, not that far away from the 52-week high of this name. So, what do you think about someone maybe harvesting a little bit of the old risk premium, tying up some capital out to SEP, but doing it for 71 cents here in this sub $5 name of AGI, sir?
This is don't you? I'm just saying, isn't 71 feel kind of fat for a September right for a $5, $4 stock?
Yeah, it feels kind of juicy. I was thinking the same thing. Obviously, I felt the same way to this guy too.
That's just a solid 20% right almost. After stock 477, it's $1 over. I would much rather sell that call, to be honest, against the stock and just take what you get. So I find that maybe that's what they did. That's kind of what it looks like, selling off the bid. but it's a pretty juicy right to me, to be honest. Also, gold's made a huge run up. This stock was just like $4 or something. So I think gold is kind of the closet play this year because of the the Fed sort of taking their foot off the managing their balance sheet a little bit. So I think overall gold as a low vol upside trade is a pretty good a better than normal type of trade.
Speaking of gold, if you like gold, come back. If you're listening live in about an hour or listening on a podcast, just look at the next show for good old Twifo, where we'll be talking all sorts of gold and volatility and everything else. Mr. Rock Lobster is closing doors on us. What you doing over there, sir? What's going on?
You know, the problem is just because you said so, I invested in a really nice digital mic. The problem is
it picks up everything. It sounds nice.
It picks up every sound. I even have my little white dog in my room, but she's being pretty good right now.
Does your nice mic have a mute button?
It does, but I my problem with muting is I forget. But I'll if I mute right now, though, you can't hear me.
Yes, that's the problem with Alzheimer's, sir. It does make you forget. But we're fighting through it all here together. So tell you what, I will give you hints. I will say mute now, Mr. Rock Lobster, while I talk about our final name here in the odd block. Then I will remind you to unmute. I will give you on the air audio direction because you haven't been doing the show for a little while. All right, here we go. Let's move on to our last name here on the old odd block. What's our Eye of Sauron? Oh, we got Progressive Corp. This is ticker symbol PGR. This name coming into Showtime. Where were we at? To about $72.50. Then it sold off down to about $72.25. So off about a quarter or so. Not a huge day here for good old PGR. This is the name that's had, looks like a pretty tumultuous 2018. And again, a pretty tumultuous kickoff to the year here. About a year ago, it was trading looks like about $56, $57 or so. And then it rallied all the way up to about, got up to 71 and change back in October, so I had a nice run up. And then when all the craziness happened, it kind of turned to the dark side again and got down to its nadir, like everything else did, at least like many names did, right around Christmas Eve, hitting that low there. Looks like around 56 and change, 56 and a half or so. And then ever since then, it's been pretty much straight up back to where it is again. So a nice 16 handle or so rally out here in PGR. So PGR having a nice little run here over the last month and change, couple of months. Let's see what the Eye of Sauron picked up out here. It was call paper again. Nice little trifecta. Well, but there are puts to the first name. So we got 2 calls and then some well-timed puts kick it all off here. Let's go here. The calls, 877 halves, about 9,000, 8,900 of these bad boys coming in. Again, a penny off the bid to the broker. Earning their penny here today. They were 45 cents at 65 coming out, and someone crushing about 9,000 of them for 46 cents. So again, a penny off the bid. These are April, and it is worth noting there is an earnings cycle in there. Actually, right before expiration, the earnings are the 16th of April. So someone coming in, it looks like maybe trying to harvest a little bit of that old earnings juice because they got some to the tune of 46 cents going out again to April with these 77 half. So picking up calls that are about 5 handles out of the money, going out a couple of months and getting about close to 50 cents for it. All right, Mr. Rock Lobster, this is the portion of the show where you unmute yourself again, and then I ask you, what do you think of this? This one maybe not quite as exciting as the other one, but also, it's not a $5 name, and he's not getting 75 cents on a $5 name, but he's getting $0.50 for 5 handles out of the money on about a $75 name. Does this one excite you more or less, sir?
Well, you have to, you know my answer, of course, where you trade a $77 stock and you're looking for, 46 cents of 46 cents of yield. What is that? It's 0.5% for a month. I mean, it's extra for sure. Okay, it's extra dollars. And, it's a 5-handle lift. So somebody probably thinks it's free money, but I guess as a trader, I spent too much time just buying those junk calls. And under hedging them and watching them grow and just getting rid of some. So I've never been a fan of just selling that low vol stuff, but if the person gets taken out, they're going to make money. So they're like, what the heck? I'm going to be out. I'll be like up, that is $5. So maybe 7 or 8% by April, maybe 9, and they're happy. So it's a trade where it's kind of a no lose for them if they're cool about just getting taken out. So I would say that's my answer on that one.
Yeah, it's about not quite a 19% vol that he's selling there versus our friend over there in AGI hitting a 53.5% vol for his 71 cents. So maybe he wants to go talk to our other friend. If he thinks he harvested some good primo, he should go talk to our friend who got 71 cents for a $5 name. That's we've definitely seen worse premium rights than that, Mr. Rock. We've seen people giving away 6 months for like a nickel, right? So these are definitely some of the better ones we've seen recently. At least you can give them that, sir.
We've seen worse, but it is what it is on this one. It's still, I got to look too if there's an earnings date in there as well. If they're selling the earnings for nothing.
Yeah, they are. The earnings are the 16th, so there's earnings in there. 16th of April.
so like, yeah, nothing's ever going to happen. They're going to sell this. Is this the insurance company, Progressive?
Yeah, this is Progressive. It's Progressive.
It's an insurance holding company. So that's the one with the girl that runs around in the white pants?
Yes.
Flo? What's her name? Flo?
Yeah, something like that. I think so. Flo.
So, I mean, it's an insurance company. They're selling Flo. I don't know.
Selling Flo?
I don't know. I like that ad campaign. So
she be the Flow Master next?
Oh, she could be the Flow Master. Henry getting a little bit of maybe some competition for his nickname.
Some competition, yeah.
And since Uncle Mike is chiming in on the odd block, that means he's getting restless, which means it's time to toss right on into a fun Thursday edition of the Strategy Block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Strategy Block. Mr. Rockhops, this is where you mute yourself again just to give you some more additional audio direction. There you go. Well done. Good boy. Sit, Ubu, sit. All right. Of course, Thursday, we didn't have a show on Monday. Uncle Mike is chomping at the bit. He wants to get at you with a little bit of strategery. So I've been kind enough to allow him some time to do just that. Uncle Mike, sir, what do you have on the docket for this rare Thursday edition of the Strategy Block?
I have a rare strategy block for a rare edition of the strategy block today. So one thing that I try and do is I want to share my experiences, share my things that are going on with 10,000 of my closest friends. And of course that I'm referring to our listeners. You guys are phenomenal. And I want to help in any way with which I can, as any host on this show would. But I wanted to go through something today from the financial world that happened with myself and a client recently. And some people were messing with my client, and I wanted to just kind of give you an idea about how I dealt with it and how actually a lawyer helped me deal with it too. So first off, I want to talk about a story from about 3 years ago. A health insurance company was trying to give me a hard time with the money that by their contract they did cover. And I had to look in their contract, and it was kind of a weird thing, but it was totally coverable, or it was totally acceptable for them to cover what I needed. And even though the 1-800 tick me off people that I'd call from the specific health insurance company said, oh, no, that's not covered. I'm like, no, it says right here. And then I couldn't get an answer. So finally what I did was is I filed a complaint with the Illinois Department of Insurance. And what eventually happened with it is that it took a while. It took a couple months, and it took some time for me. But the fact that I was able to file a complaint with the Illinois Department of Insurance, it was something to where, had I not done that, this medical bill would have been over $50,000. And so because it was covered, it was clearly covered, I had to fight for it. I was able to get the health insurance company to do it. And they put up a fight, but I never had to hire a lawyer. I never had to do anything like that. I just had to continue to plead my case to the Department of Insurance. And then magically, the insurance company seemed okay with it. So the first thing that I want to mention on this is that if you ever run into a situation like that, if you feel the insurance company is trying to put one past you and try and get you to back down, one great ally that you have is your state's Department of Insurance. It might not be as good from other states as it is for Illinois, at least it was in my case, but I just want you to know that you have rights when it comes to something like that. Now, let's expand on this and talk about something that happened to me and one of my clients about a month ago. So I have a client that his aunt is probably going to live maybe 1 to 2 years, maybe 1 day, 1 year, whatever the case may be. We knew that, and there wasn't any medical condition dictating that. It just kind of the way she was slowing down, and it just didn't really look good for her. So she had a sum of money. And so one thing that exists out there are death benefit based annuities. And so back maybe 15 years ago, my grandpa was in a situation like this. And so we put a vast chunk of his money into an annuity. He had Alzheimer's disease and he couldn't do anything for himself. But we put all this money in an annuity. What it did is it guaranteed a death benefit to where we had all the upside of the market. But let's say the market were to tank. If that were the case, then we knew that when he passed away, and we knew it would be within a year or two, that he would still hold on to his death benefit. So we over allocated him to the nth degree to these stocks within this variable annuity. And so what happened is that the market took off, and my grandpa and his parting gift to his family did really well because of the fact that we were able to really over allocate to the market because we had this death benefit. Now, what if my grandpa needed the money? Well, my grandpa was living in a military home and all his needs were being met. And this was still just a portion of his money. We still kept well over in a very large amount of money away from that in case he needed some for whatever reason. If the home went belly up in the military or whatever, he got kicked out because of the government not allowing him there anymore. But we didn't think that would happen. My grandpa was a World War II vet, and so they took good care of him. But my point is that we didn't put everything in it. We put a portion in there that we would normally have probably put in CDs or something like that. So with that being said, this client that I had recently, similar situation, and the variable annuity death benefit was not an option. We looked around for it. But what we were able to find was an indexed annuity to where the client could have all the upside and still have not only death benefit protection, but she was given a 6% signing bonus, meaning that let's say she put in $100, it was immediately worth $106. Now, typically those types of annuities aren't very good in my opinion, because the surrender period, you're going to have to leave your money in there for 10 years. But this was a chunk of money that we knew that she would not need after doing a financial analysis. This was probably came out to like 10% of her net worth, maybe 12% of her net worth. And so what we decided to do is let it ride in the market. And worst case, she had this 6% bonus. So the insurance company was banking on her living at least another 5 to 7 years for them to make money on this. Now, we were totally honest in our disclosures and we gave the right answers. She was not suffering from any terminal illness. We provided death certificates. Everything was on the up and up with this, but she did pass away almost instantly after this happened. So the insurance company naturally said, oh no, she's not eligible for it because of some trumped up garbage reason. So what we did is I knew that they were wrong in this case, and I knew they were wrong. And I've just had 15 years of Real World 101 as my legal background. And along with some business law class in college. But this is one to where it was ridiculous. It was totally clear cut that they were wrong. So with this, the client, the son of the beneficiary to this person, he just happens to be a lawyer, or he's actually a recent law school grad and is studying for his bar exam. So needless to say, I told him about that. He wrote a nice, nasty letter to the insurance company because it's ultimately his dad's money that he's trying to get. And I worked with the insurance company. They tried to do all sorts of different things. But ultimately, what we were able to do is get a 6% rate of return on the client's money over a 2-month period at absolutely zero risk. And with that, that's one of those things to where were we purposely trying? Did we know that his aunt was going to die within a month? No, not at all. But we did kind of feel that her years were numbered, and so we felt that product would be appropriate. And that's something that I think is appropriate if you think someone's going to pass away in the next 1 to 4 years. In this case, she passed away literally 4 days, or I'm sorry, it was 6 days after the contract was issued. And so with that, it turned out to be literally the most ideal dream investment you could possibly make for them. Now, with that, like I said, the insurance company tried to fight us, but always remember, you have the ability to fight back. I'm a little guy in that I don't work for Goldman Sachs. RCM's my firm. And so my point is that RCM is very good, very nice, very equitable, but we're nothing in comparison to the size of a Morgan Stanley or a Goldman Sachs. But I want you to know that the little guy can win if you know how to fight the battles. Now, if the insurance company would have blocked it again, our next step was to file a complaint with the Department of Insurance. And then the next step was we threatened to sue them, or the lawyer, son of the beneficiary, threatened to sue them in the letter. And I think ultimately the insurance company said, if we got to fly out to the state of Illinois to do this, it's not worth our expenses, just give them the 12 grand. Or whatever it came out to. So I think ultimately that it's one where there's ways with which you can do the right thing, and having an open mind and being savvy and not backing down to people. There's a lot to be said for that. And this is one to where I'm excited because I'm not going to mention the insurance company because I feel that would be very unprofessional. However, and if anyone ever talks to me one-on-one, I will definitely mention it to them then. But ultimately, I'll never do business with this insurance company again. What they did to my client was horrible, and they should be ashamed of themselves. But it's always good to know that the good guys won today, and very excited about that. And trying to beat the insurance company at their own game, that's the strategy block for today.
Look at you bringing up annuities on my show, sir. The forbidden A word of annuities. But I guess it worked out in the end there for you. So, well, not so much for the insurance companies, but worked out for you and your clients, which is that's what we're after here. That's what we're looking for here at the end of the day, right, Uncle Mike?
Hey, if there's a put option out there, even if it is in the form of an annuity, if I feel it's a well-priced put option, then by gosh, that was a well-priced put option. 0 risk, 6% over the course of, with all the contracting paperwork, it would be 2 months, but essentially 6 days of the money in their hands. I'll take that.
Yeah, it sounds like that worked out pretty good for you, and hopefully, listeners, it's going to work out for you, good for you as well, because we have a little bit of you coming on with the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block as I get all my levels balanced here in my ears. There we go. I'll just have to hold it like that, I suppose, to hear myself. Well, we could do that. There are worse things, like having to tell Mr. Rock Lobster when to mute and unmute himself all the time. But I digress. All right, let's kick things off here. See how many of you guys we can get on the show with us today. Let's start. Whoa, who's making all these Skype noises on me here? You guys dialing people or something over there? What are you guys up to over there? Here, I got away from the studio for a couple of days here.
I don't know why all of a sudden all the clicks and pops are coming in. I don't know.
It's totally from the Rock Labs. I got my eye and my ear on you, sir. So your new microphone, here you go. You update your system, and all of a sudden, we're hearing all the wonderful world of Maine ambient audio. The trees, the lobsters clicking their claws, all sorts of good stuff going on out there. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm sure Kyle will love you in the post-editing process. But I will leave that up to him to express his displeasure with you. Let's move on. Speaking of displeasure, it's not displeasure. There's a lot of love coming from you guys again. We got Optionsgame chiming in. This was from French, actually. This was translated from French. He said, just telling people in French that they should follow us because we're good podcasts that will give you ideas. Again, that's from Google Translate, so maybe they butchered it a little bit. But thanks for the love. We always love in English or any other language you want to send the love our way. We are happy that you like it. That's why we do it after. That's why we're here. I'm in the sunny Florida, taking time out of my day to talk options with you guys because we like you guys. All right, Chris Imming chiming in saying, maybe it's time to question the assumption about the accuracy of analyst estimates. Let's make analysts great again. First off, I could question that assumption. I don't know if analysts ever were great. I've always, I think if you listen to the show for any length of time, you know we all pretty much take a pretty dim collective view of things like analysts and estimates and whisper numbers and all that other nonsense. It's pretty much a bunch of noise. These analysts, you know, they've tried to clean up the system a few times, but a lot of it is still just ripe with all sorts of contradictions and conflicts of interest, and that whole system is still pretty gross, in my opinion. That's why we always say, hey, you have the information right in front of you. You don't need an analyst to tell you what to expect. Look at what the options market is pricing in, because guess what? That's real dollars at work doing real analysis with real money. There's no whisper numbers. There's no conflict of interest. None of that other nonsense. It's here's what a straddle is pricing. Here's what the expected moves are. Look at the earnings reports we do for ORATs all the time. They'll tell you here's what they're pricing right now. Here's what they've delivered in the past. Here's what they've done the same quarter. Here's what they've done over the past calendar year. All these different ways you could slice the onion and see the data for yourself. So I think that's definitely a way better way to go, in my opinion. And hence we talk about it a lot here on the show. But maybe we can make analysts great again. I just don't think they ever were. What do you guys, Mr. Rock Lobster or Uncle Mike, do you agree, disagree with Chris? He says maybe it's time to question the assumption about the act. I forgot which name he was writing in. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're at a point where analysts cannot be questioned any longer. Would you guys concur?
Well, I want to know when they were great to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. They've never been great, I think, in all of our collective opinions. Hence, listen to this show instead. We'll steer you in the right direction, or at least try to break down what the market is pricing in, which at the end of the day is what pretty much everybody wants to know, right? All right, Neil Wales, he's written it a bunch of times. I think he's the one who had that spot-on prediction for the end of the year VIX, or that weekly 2-week VIX prediction, where he won a book, and then Mr. Meatball never sent it to him, so he keeps bugging us. So, Mr. Meatball, send him his book. All right, so let's see. He's chiming in on the poll we did last week or so. We asked you guys, there was a new kid on the block, a somewhat new kid, in terms of VXXB. How you guys trading it? Are you not? 43% of you saying, yeah, you're trading it. You jumped into VXXB. 32% of you said, you prefer VIX. Others said you prefer TVIX, or your spreads are too wide. That's why you're not trading it. He was chiming in on that poll saying we should have added another choice, which is that, and I guess this includes him, he says he has no idea how to trade these things yet. Mr. Rock Lobster, sounds like you have a candidate here for a new client, a new mentee here. You should reach out to Mr. Neal, say maybe you have some classes on this, because he sounds like he's still befuddled by all things VXXB, sir.
I have an actual class called VIX Made Easy and VXX Made Easy. You just think VXX, get rid of that and make it VXXB, and all the same stuff works. So I've actually had Tosaw actually sent me some people for education. So they become, I think anyway, pretty happy clients. So if you want to learn, all of these things are education. And once you're educated on how they work, you have a much better chance of making money with the products and using them in clever ways for, I actually use them for the opposite way they're designed until they actually are ready to work how they're supposed to work. So once you kind of understand how they work and you see the history of it, a lot of the mystery goes away, and that's you actually have a shot at trying to make some money with them. So I would say, Neil, Andrew at optionpit.com, and get some of your learning on. I'll give any listener a 20% discount on our store price if they heard the show and said, you know what, Andrew, I want to try your VIX Made Easy or VXXB Made Easy classes. And I'll give you a 20% discount right off the store price, just because you listen to this show and because I'm trying to help my friend Mark Longo out. You have lots of sticky listeners.
We do have lots of good listeners, lots of good questions, and there you go, getting some deals there from the Rock Lobster here. Black Mace wants to know, why do I think Target is going to drop like a knife? I don't. I don't think I've ever said that. I think people get confused when we post things talk about them on our show or maybe on the website. Things like the most active. I think in this case he was looking at a Target most active, and so there were puts sliding it up in Target. doesn't mean we think anything about Target. We're just telling you what the volume is in Target that day. So, no, I have no viewpoint on Target right now dropping like a knife. I hate to disappoint you there, Mr. Black Mace. Anonymous. I like what you did there with the handle. Interesting. Anonymous wants to know, how do we get our pre-market news? And do we get notified when news breaking, or have we tried? He wants to know if we tried Benzinga Pro. Maybe he's trying to sell me on Benzinga Pro. I don't know. But how do we get our pre-market news? We are an options news outlet. That's kind of what we do. So yes, we do go get a lot of that news on our own, through our own lonesome. And we do use a variety of services. Well, I've talked about them before. I used to use a lot of Liveball. Not so much of those guys anymore. We use a lot of other services. We deal with a lot big fans of all the trade alert, option alert stuff. That's good stuff there as well. It's not so much news. That's all data. But data, at the end of the day, is what will lead you to determining the news there for yourself. And I know the Benzinga guys. I haven't tried the Pro. They haven't had a lot in the way of options offering. We used to have one of their guys on our team here who came from Benzinga Pro, particularly because there wasn't a lot going on in the world of options. Maybe they've upgraded it since then. I don't know. I haven't checked it out, but the long answer to your question is the answer to that is no. Let's see. All right, I think we got to keep on rolling into our final segment. It is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we'll see one final time if the Rock Lobster can remember his mute button, or if it's all a sad, sad farce. But yeah, interesting stuff going on. Market still, well, not so much in rally homo, but it seems like the sell-off is mitigating a little bit as we're talking here. So maybe we talked up the market a little bit during our show here, but a fun one. Talk some UA, talk some well-timed paper in the car. Mr. Meatball making a nice some money on a one lot there. So there you go. Looking at some of our UA can sometimes profit you, not just directly. Obviously, we don't advocate going out and doing the exact same trade that all of these people are doing in the odd block, but looking at it, doing your own analysis, and then if you like some other ways, maybe some of the distortions created by that paper, by all means, have at it there. And of course, we answered some of your questions. Even got a little bit into the grim world of death benefit annuities. Who thought that was coming on the show today? So all sorts of craziness. See what happens, listeners, when I'm out and about traveling in the mobile studio. You never know what's going to come at you here on the show. Let's go back around one last time. Let's start with Uncle Mike, sir. What's catching your eye for the rest of the week?
2,800, China, and then not this week, but next, I believe we have non-farm coming up. So that's pretty much it right now. Curious to see if we can hold these levels and see if we can knock on the door at 2,800.
And Mr. Rock Lobster, same question for you, sir. What is catching your eye out there for the rest of this week into the weekend?
I think the market kind of sits here and goes sideways until there is a good chunk of positive news. I don't think the Fed can help a whole lot more than it already has done. Somehow the Donald has gotten the Fed to slow down a little bit while this trade war thing is going on, and then maybe they start back up again on the back of the success of that. I could easily see that happening. The gold is a little I find the gold is the sneaky indicator. It's had a pretty big rally. I know Tosaw is a gold bug. I find the level of volatility there compelling. It's like it's really, really, really cheap for, what I think is, could be, you got to buy stuff when it's cheap. And gold vol is ridiculously low at this point. So I'm trying to, it's off a little bit today. So I find that interesting as well. I haven't heard any real change. So usually, if the Fed's not going to step off the gas, you get some kind of there's a little bit of wonky activity in how gold's responding, I think, just to the current news. Like, okay, they're not going to reduce their balance sheet, and then gold doesn't rally. So that's kind of weird. If they're reducing, I could see them gold not rallying or gold falling, but they're saying, now we're not going to reduce our balance sheet. We're going to hold all that. That still seems like mildly inflationary to me. So anyway, Weirdville and still gold volatility below 10%. It's not very expensive. And what I would call like pretty exorbitant or relatively high skewed for gold. some of our clients using our hedge owner sheets and looking for skew, and it's a candidate. So the upside is, you could create pretty darn cheap upside in gold right now. So just, looking at that stuff in total where I don't see much happening, you're just looking for kind of these like goofy decay trades. So that's what it is. Just there's not the excitement we had in the last 2 quarters. That's for sure.
Look at you talking upside in gold. If only we had a whole show devoted to all things, commodity and futures options to discuss such things. Oh, wait, we do. Coming up in about 30 minutes here on the live stream, or otherwise, if you're listening to your favorite podcast device of choice, just hit the next show because it'll be there. So if you like what Mr. Rock Lobster's laying down, talking about all things gold, and I think we'll talk some gold today on TWIFO as well as a bunch of other products. Head at it over there. You know where to find it. Check it out, the old TWIFO this week in futures options. But before we go, let's go back around the horn one last time. Mr. Rock Lobster, you kind of touched on your VIX Made Easy. People want to check it out for themselves. Where should they go? What should they do?
Go to optionpit.com. Go to our store. We have a lot of really cool products in there for people that want to learn about different things to trade, how to trade it, how to manage it, how to understand the conditions that make them work. Also, we have our master classes coming on using long-term volatility, more from just straight, I want to use options to invest with. I want to learn how to hedge over long-term with options. I want to be able to price and trade an equity portfolio using options, using covered calls in clever ways, all kinds of strategies, also hedging a book of options. So it's a great way to learn how to trade options. If you have like a day job and you say, I'm trying to look for taking a part of my portfolio and trying to jack the yield up and also find a way to add some, protective parts. So I have it tradable when the market starts to fall apart. So it's something our clients like a lot. I teach part of this to our pro class, and it's popular. So we'll have a master class on it. So Longo can say that for the next 10 weeks while we have the class.
There you go. Check out the masterclass coming to a webinar player near you, in particular the one over there at optionpit.com. And last but not least, Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, I'm assuming if people want to call about death benefit annuities, you'll take the call, but it's not kind of what you do. Tell them what you do over there and where they should go if they want to learn more.
By all means, if you want some type of death benefit planning, I'm more than happy to help. Or if you want some benefits while you are actually living and want to delve into the option space, by all means, give me a call. Check out my website, stcharleswealth.com, for the ways in which I manage wealth and can possibly help you. stcharleswealth.com.
There you go, listeners. Check them out, stcharleswealth.com. And on behalf of the Rock Lobster, and now he's Mr. Gold. Who knows? Maybe we'll have to twist his arm, get him on TWIFO one of these days. And indeed, Uncle Mike and myself, I want to thank all of you for downloading, streaming, subscribing, putting up with some of our live stuff early on. I think it's all sorted out there now. And we'll see you next time for more of the Option Block.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.